people get into running for all different reasons. It's a journey. We all agree on that. But this running goal is out of this world by nature, but literally in it by application. Hello and welcome to the Ultra Running Podcast with me, Coach Marshy. So let's welcome today's guest to the show. So I'd like to welcome Roberto. Hello, Roberto. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Neil. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show. It's really appreciated. So a little bit of a different episode today because what I'm about to speak to you about, I never thought I wouldn't have conceived that as a goal myself, and I wouldn't have thought to be having the privilege of talking to someone who was attempting something like this goal. So first of all, Roberto, before we dive into that, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, who you are, and sort of your involvement in running.
All right. Well, it's a pretty long story. However, I'm going to try to short it as much as I can. I am Roberto. I'm from Italy. I'm precisely from Florence, Tuscany. And I'm a amatorial, passionate runner since I was a little kid of 6 years old. I like saying I learned to run first and then walk when I was a little kid. So running has been always a big part of my life. And to sum it up, I always been running for all my life. And like everybody, I started doing races at school with kids and in my younger age, and then getting involved with half marathons, and all the usual stuff. And then I moved to the UK for 9 years to work. And at that point, I decided to mix my main passions, which are running and travel. So the idea was to combine these two together in a single original idea, which consisted to run any single distance. That didn't matter if it was a 5K, 10K, or a ultra marathon, but in every single country of the world.
Wow. What a goal. Carry on.
So, yeah, the idea started with a massive giant in front of me that I didn't know how to start. And simply at the beginning, I was taking part in international events like everybody, traveling for any particular half marathon or a marathon somewhere in Europe, for example, and then actually starting to appreciate the fact of traveling for a particular race. At the beginning, I went to take part in the Paris Marathon or some marathons in Scandinavia, for example, or just in Italy at some point. And just the fact of actually having the goal of traveling for the race was actually interesting. Combining the travel and the running together felt quite cool and interesting. But at some point, I decided to make the running the real goal. So traveling for the only mission of running in a single place, unusual, and make the country being visited on a runner point of view. So yeah, trying to make it a little more original than a single travel.
Yeah, no, I find that really interesting there because your reason for running and your passion is the way you've combined that is really cool and really unique to me. I don't personally know any other runners that have kind of combined passions like that. There are runners that will combine passions, but to the fact that you love travel and you love to run and to combine it in that way and come up with this epic goal is just something that, well, totally inspires me to start with, but also sort of listening to what you say there, I completely agree. People will travel to go and do a half marathon or a marathon, like the big major marathons of the world, you know, the New York, Chicago, Tokyo. People will travel and try and do all 6 of those marathons. But this is in a different way. And just to set the scene for the listeners and to give you a bit of background about me, I ran in 3 years of my life so far, 2014, 2017 and 2020, I've ran every day of that year as a goal. And in 2014, I traveled a lot. So I ended up on, I ended up on 2 continents that year. But in 2017, I ended up on 3 continents in that year. And I went on a ski holiday. I went to visit my sister in the States, and I went to various places in Europe for, at the time, what was stag do's, pre-wedding. So I think when I was away, because running was part of my life and I love it and I was doing it every day, it didn't matter where I was in the world. I had to go out and run. And what I found in those 3 years in particular, obviously not in 2020 because no one went anywhere, but I found this thing that was starting to reoccur for me, where I was running, say, in New York, visiting my sister, and I realized that I was starting to see a way of the world that on that holiday, I would not have seen that unless I was running. You would have never have seen it in a tourist point of view. So just on that, get your take on that. You know, the fact that you're running in all these different places, obviously you're traveling there because this is your goal, but I guess you're seeing things that you wouldn't see if you just went there as a normal tourist, say.
Exactly. That's the way I see it as well.
Yeah. So if we dive into it then, so we're recording this in 2021. So we're at the stage of the journey that you're at now. So how many countries have you run in so far?
Right. So this project, which I called on my Instagram, Running Out of Countries, started about 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 years plus, I ran to 35 countries.
Wow.
So, of course, I visited more countries. However, I had to come back and run again in these countries to tick them off from the list and complete any single run over there. So right now I run most of Europe, and recently I just been to Jordan, which is the first time I've been to the Middle East.
Yep.
And yeah, so far is considering the pandemic times that got me stuck for nearly 1 year or probably more. It's doing not too bad, actually, considering the times.
Yeah, no, in that short period of time, and like you say, with that pause on the goal for just over a year, really, you've obviously achieved quite a lot early on in that goal. So, are you still based in the UK then?
Right now, I am back in Italy. I'm talking from Sicily, from near Palermo, and yeah, right now I live here.
So the weather's really hot there, right? I know that's a really British thing to ask you, but it is. The weather's really hot, right?
Yeah, it's still about 20 degrees. However, today it's a bit chillier. It's like 15, and it's rainy. So the UK is following me.
Yeah. I think we would take 15 degrees here today, I think.
Yeah, pretty sure.
I think obviously, so being European nations that we live in, you know, excluding England's and the UK's recent exit from the European Union, the freedom of travel is a little bit easier. We can move around and we can get to places quite easy. So I'm guessing the European section of this has been, in terms of operations and logistics, fairly straightforward so far.
Absolutely, yes. Europe, I would say, it's the easiest continent to travel to. You don't need many visas to enter any country. Pretty much no country requires a visa unless you go to to the Eastern Europe, where some countries still requires a visa. Other than that, travel is pretty much easy. So I've quite been lucky to tick them off quite quickly. Let's also say.
I've got loads of questions, and I'm sure we could talk about this all day. But I'm going to try and keep it concise, but one question that was on my mind: have you run in 2 countries in one day before?
Oh yeah, several times.
Okay,
It
and
happened. I was okay. How to start? Actually, I was in Andorra. I
yeah,
ran a half marathon over there, and then I passed the border with Spain. Got some passport stamp, which I'm really addicted to that.
yeah,
So entering in Spain and continuing running from there. Then I happened to run in San Marino, the little country
yeah,
inside Italy. So that's quite easy to get out from the country. Or then I run in Hungary and Slovakia on the same day. Or what else? Romania. Actually, no, Romania. I was only in the same country in one day.
right, okay,
Um, I ran in Switzerland and Liechtenstein and Austria in one day. So that's three countries in one single run.
right, and it was it
So
in was it in one single run as well? So you crossed the border during a
yeah,
run? Oh,
yes,
that's
I
yeah,
started in Switzerland, crossing the whole Liechtenstein country, and then ending up in Austria at the final 4 kilometers. So that was quite funny.
brilliant. That's really cool. That's so cool. I think any runner listening to this will be seeing a completely different side to running. You know, it's a great idea and it's a great concept in someone's mind, but you're living this, and little things like running more than one country in one day, I guess they're little like wins, or they're little kind of exciting moments that are along that journey as well, that make sort of different things happen from day to day, right?
It is, it is. There's a different taste, let's say, if you combine this kind of idea of traveling in every country and just single running. I think it has a different taste.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I can imagine it does. So talking about Europe, let's talk about the Scandinavian countries, because looking through it, we'll share your Instagram in the description when we put the podcast out, so that everyone can follow you. Anyone looking can find Roberto. It is running _out_of_countries, and on there's a really great section on the highlights reel where it's got all the different countries, and it's got their flag as the symbol as well. So if we talk about those sort of Scandinavian part of Europe, when did you do Iceland?
Oh, Iceland was about 2 years ago. Went to Iceland many times, like 35, 36 times, just for
Okay,
passion for the Nordic countries. I have many passions, first of all, and Nordic countries is one of them. So yeah, I've been to Iceland many times. However, for running, I had to, of course, tick it off in a little adventure. So yeah, I was there in the winter, and that was one of the first countries I ticked off from the project of
right,
running the world. And the idea was actually to not just tick off and run by myself, but possibly involve local runners. So the first thing I've done was to uh, go on Facebook or Instagram and check any local runners in Iceland in the city I was running. And luckily, I found about 7, 8 runners who were happy to and curious to meet me. So we agreed on time to meet and a place. And with -25, we managed to run about 10, 15K.
wow, wow. So say that again.
So
Minus what? 20.
yes.
Wow. So
So
running
yeah,
in minus temperatures like that, so that kind of what was, the question was going to be around the weather, and what was it really cold, and clearly it was. So when you're running in that kind of temperature, what's different to, say, someone who lives in the UK or someone who lives in Italy? Our climate is never going to go to that extreme at this stage. So how did that feel? I bet it was a bit of a shock, right?
uh, but personally, I must say that I have an amazing relationship with cold.
Okay.
I rarely feel cold, especially when I'm running. So that was quite a lucky point for me. The thing of people, when I'm telling the story of running with -20, -15, or whatever, they, of course, they all think I'm crazy. And the first question I get is if it affects my lungs, my breathing when I'm running.
Yeah.
Some people felt that. Personally, I never had any issue with this, so I'm okay. On the opposite side, I suffer a lot with hot places.
Oh, really?
Oh
That's
yeah, it's definitely,
interesting.
I'm the opposite of the Italian, I would say.
That's really interesting. So let's say, I don't know, so take Iceland and then take Jordan, you know,
Yeah.
huge differences. And we've been in contact, and I've been following you now for a little while. And I think with that, I was, following your story on Instagram around the Jordan run when you did that. And how did it differ in terms of, I guess the terrain's going to be different straight away, under your feet, but what were the differences?
Well, of course, Jordan, I didn't know. I just researched a few days before arriving there. I discovered that Jordan is one of the driest countries in the world. So drier than some countries in Africa. And I was actually curious to see if it was true. And my God, if it was true. When running along the Dead Sea, 2 kilometers after, I felt my lips super dry. I was dehydrated completely. I was
Yeah.
knackered by 2 or 3 kilometers. So I really felt a huge difference. So of course I was not planning to run any longer than, I don't know, 15, 12K. So yeah, the difference was really, really felt.
Yeah. I'm trying to think the hottest place I've ran. So I've ran actually in a country that you will have on your list but haven't yet visited, which is Sierra Leone in Africa.
Oh
West,
wow,
West
fantastic.
Africa. And we were running a marathon, and the humidity was unbelievable. And I kind of relate to what you're saying there about dehydration and things. So yeah, I think you've obviously got a big journey ahead. So what kind of, obviously travel and running are your passions, and that kind of led to the goal, but what really kind of made you decide to run in every country? You want to be the first Italian to do it, right?
Yeah, I had to underline first Italian because right when I was in Iceland, actually, back to the running in Iceland, I discovered that there was a British guy called Nick Butter who was at that moment finishing to run a marathon in every country in the world. So I got super curious about his adventure, and I was basically a bit shocked to find out that at the same time there was another guy in the world trying to do the same, and he was nearly finishing it. So possibly I arrived a little bit later than him, but so I had to include also the territories. So apart from every country in the world, I wanted to add also the autonomous territories, non-recognized countries. So like I don't know, if I run in the UK, I don't want to run only, let's say, in London, but also in Jersey, in Guernsey, Isle of Man, Scotland, Wales.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and I don't know, the passion for traveling and the countries and geography, flags, capitals, borders has always been a big part of my life since I was a little kid. I knew every single flag and capital of the world by the age of 7, I guess. So
yeah,
it's always been a big part of my life. So when I saw somebody running, let's say, in Sierra Leone like you did, or on the other side in some Polynesian countries or some remote corners of the world, I always had to Google where the place was. So I've always been fascinated about that.
That's cool. What a great reason to run. People in the fitness industry that I work in, and people in the running world always talk about what is your why. What is the why? And your why is very clear and has lots of links to your passions and what you're interested in. And it just sounds like a really good way of doing it. So being Italian, Malta is just across the sea. It's not too far, especially from where you are now. I have a lot of history of Malta myself. My mum used to live there when she was a kid. So then as we grew up, we went there a lot on holiday, and we carried on doing that all the way through our life for the last 25 years or so. So that includes a lot of my running journey. So I've run a lot in Malta, and at times I found that particularly hard, but I ran from one side of Malta to the other because I wanted that to be my goal. So I don't think Malta's on your list yet. You haven't ticked it off yet?
It's not on my list. I was literally searching to go in next month.
Right.
But it was not logistically possible. So I had to combine, of course, work and free time also with this. So not every day it's possible to travel, unfortunately. But Malta is on my wish list since a long time, as it's so close.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I was getting at with the question is the places that are really close and a quick flight or even a ferry across they must be really kind of you must see them as almost like low-hanging fruit, quite easy to tick off, but maybe you don't get the chance that you'd like to due to the tail end of the pandemic or work and things get in the way, right? So do you find any challenges with that?
Oh yeah, big time. Not every day you find the right deal, the right price, or like you just said, Malta in particular has been close to the tourism for a very extended period of time. They just reopened now for Italians some months ago, so it wasn't easy to get there, although the distance. Yeah. And the good thing about it is that so far I didn't run in too many countries. So I have the full choice of destinations still in front of me. Yeah. So right now I'm just picking up whatever is available for days off I have and the prices. So at the moment I'm trying to tick them off as many as I can. And one day, as soon as the list is going to get shorter, probably I will invest a bit more money and time in getting there to complete it.
Yeah, and I guess you, I don't know, obviously down under Australia and New Zealand, one would assume that the strategy is to go and do those at the same time, right?
Exactly. Yeah. For example, I cannot have like a very extended period of time, or I cannot go to Australia in 3 days off and run there and be back a few hours later. It's just impossible. So at some point I will have to basically focus and dedicate a lot of time, I don't know, leaving my current job or finding a solution to be there for a very long period of time, like, I don't know, a couple of months or something. And also spend lots of money in traveling, because obviously it's all found by myself. I don't have any sponsors yet, if one day will arrive. So it's all made for just personal hobby at the moment. It's not even there's not even a big goal about it behind. It's just my passion at the moment.
Yeah, no, but that's great. Passion's always the thing to follow. That's what I find. That's why we're here. I love that we have this platform to talk to people about their journeys. And, I'm sure, as I am already with what you're saying, there's lots to learn about the world of running. And this is a completely different perspective. And certainly one that I'm very interested in myself. So hopefully throughout your journey and your passion through this, you'll really find, I'm sure there'll be loads of stories that you get along the way. So on that note, so far in this journey, is there a story that stands out to you that perhaps is not got that much to do with running, but probably happened because you were there trying to run in that country? Is there anything that stands out?
I keep saying that to everybody that asks me that, in friends, interview, and curious people, because I do want to show off as the ultra runner, the strongest runner on earth. I'm not. I'm just an amateur runner like everybody. I have my own pace. It can be strong, it can be fast, or it can be slow to some other people. I don't really care anymore about the distance or pace I have. I just want to run there for the pleasure of running. So if I want to show to people that it's possible, everybody can do it.
Yeah.
Unless, you just need to want to run in a particular place. And about running in the countries, I also like running, including running in unusual places. And the most unusual one so far that I run to is the Vatican State.
Right.
Because of course I wanted to include some kilometers running along the St. Peter Square, which is the smallest country in the world. And to do so, I discovered that you need a particular authorization to run there.
Right.
I thought it was as a public square. I didn't know that, but Vatican has its own rules. So I discovered that you need a particular permit to run over there. And luckily, after a little bit of research, emails, phone calls, I managed to have a phone call with the commando of the Vatican Gendarmerie.
Right.
So after a few days, I received a permission and authorization to run over there. I wanted to run about 12 laps of St. Peter Square to complete some kilometers, and then run the whole perimeter of the country. And luckily, it has been possible. So they let me run at a very specific day and time, so 6 a.m. of a Thursday. So I had the whole St. Peter Square at sunrise just for myself. I was the only one over there, and running under the columns of the St. Peter Square on my own was just an amazing experience. Like, it's difficult to explain it, to just running a square in laps, 12 laps, and being on your own in the smallest country in the world. Actually, I like to say that in the world at that moment there were many runners doing their daily jog.
Yeah.
But on that precise day and precise moment, I was the only runner in that country.
Oh,
so
wow, yeah. Great story.
that was
Yeah.
cool. So that's quite a cool story, and I really, it's one of my favorite runs. Although it was nothing special, I was not going fast. I didn't do many kilometers, but symbolically, it really meant a lot for me.
Oh, huge, absolutely huge. I can relate. I've done a few special runs, if that makes sense. So my sister used to live in Brooklyn in New York, so I got up before sunrise and then ran the sunrise of the Brooklyn Bridge when there was no one else around. And people come up with their own little goals, and obviously that was yours. But what a story that is, because I would argue, is there that many people that have even done that?
Well, probably I knew of several runners who just simply cross St. Peter's Square in their daily jog around Rome. Yeah. But I don't know if people actually thought of this idea of just running along St. Peter's Square for several laps. So yeah, that got my curiosity, and I was really actually proud of this moment.
Yeah, no, that's a great story, and there's probably things you did in that story that you would never otherwise have done in your life ever. You wouldn't have spoke to the people you spoke to. There would have been no reason for those conversations to happen. What an experience to just be able to do the run itself. Sounds like it was quite hard to sort out as well. So
yeah,
if we talk about, let's go on to the most obscured place that you've run so far.
Oh, obscure places.
Yeah. What would you say?
That's a tricky questions. Let's say that basically I don't like going like on a holiday, let's say, or traveling where everybody goes. I like to go where people don't go.
Yeah.
So, for example, I've been to a country where not many tourists normally go, which is Kosovo.
Yes. Yeah, I did see Kosovo on your list, actually. Yeah. So
yeah,
tell us a bit about that. Was it hostile?
Not at all. I must say everything was super safe. However, of course, not every country is modern or rich on their own. So I must say that being a new country, separating from Serbia with some Albanian influence culturally, of course, it has its own issues and good sides. So of course, the country is brand new, and there's a lot of stuff to improve. Let's say,
Yeah.
for example, the state of the roads was really, really hard. There was no asphalt, or at some point you had three ways with no indication, no signs whatsoever, no lights at all. People driving really fast with no many rules along the road.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit hard, especially at night. But at the same time, once you get there, people are super friendly. So because they're not really used to see proper tourism over there, that they're really welcoming you. If they
Yeah.
have, whoever has less probably chance to give you something will welcome you in whatever way they can. So, for example, I was staying in Prizren, which is one of the cities in south Kosovo, and the owner of the place where I was staying basically reopened the kitchen for me at 10:30 p.m., welcoming me with whatever he could. So it was really, really welcoming for me. Really, really cool. And in not in every country you receive such a welcoming. For example, even in Jordan, I was surprised that since I was sweating and tired of running in a man in the 33 degrees, a
Yeah.
man of a shop just gave me a free bottle of water just because. So that really, really touched me. And not in every country you receive free stuff, let's say, or such a
Yeah.
nice welcome. So yeah, it's obscure in terms of tourism and news, let's say, uh,
Yeah.
on the social medias or the TV news or newspapers. But actually, this is something that really, really intrigues me. It makes me want to discover these places even more than a simple run in a country which is approachable by anybody.
The you know, that they say that, say football, we both like football could be like an international language, but actually in your case you're finding out that you're there running, the reason you're there is running, and actually people are still being welcoming, and they're perhaps curious about what it is you're doing, and you know they're willing to have that kind of, there is that community side to it as well, right?
Absolutely, completely agree with you. The good thing of Instagram is not every day, of course, you find local runners, but with the time and a little bit of searching, you can kind of get in touch with some people who are interested, first of all, in my project, and then willing to meet me in real and go for a run together. And this happened a few times in different countries. And to me, it's what means the most when I'm running in a new country. Getting to know
Yes.
somebody for the first time in real, after a little bit of chatting together, and finally get to run together in their places, for me is something that still amazes me. And in particular, when I run in a new location, if I run with a local person, of course they're gonna take me to some different path away from the touristic areas.
Yeah.
So that it becomes more authentic, and we can share some stories while running together.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, for me, running's always been about the people. And like you say, if you go as a tourist to countries, and especially to certain countries, you have to stay on the beaten track just because of fear of maybe going somewhere that you're not meant to be, or is it safe? But if you are with a local that wants to just have a nice run, you perhaps get to see those bits that you wouldn't otherwise see. So yeah, I take that. I take what you're saying there, and I think I can see how that is a really kind of nice addition, where you get to share those stories with someone from that country. And obviously there'll be language barriers, right? And you'll have to get past those. But you know, how many languages do you speak?
Well, I actually speak 6 languages, so communication is okay with me. Let's say.
So what are those languages? Go for it.
Well, of course, Italian,
Yeah.
French, English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Finnish.
Wow. Wow.
So, well, I don't speak any Slavic language. Well, I speak a little bit of Polish, or I can manage a little bit of Hungarian, which although I know it's super difficult, I really like the language, so it sticks to my mind. But I don't speak any Asian language or Arabic, so it's going to be difficult by the time I'm going to be running there.
Yeah. No, but I mean, what a way to meet people. And you know, running for me, we all have phases where you run PBs and you run your first distance at that time and you want to do well and whatever. We all go through that as runners at some point in our life. But I'm very much like you. It's pace for me is just a 4-letter word. You know, it's not important. It's for me, it's the people in the community that you can meet. And when I say community, I don't just mean my local running club or whatever. I mean the whole world, the running community. And like you say about social media and linking up with people, you know, here we are. We're talking about running on a podcast, which at this point is fairly new. And it's just a great way to connect communities. And, you know, if I can pass your journey on to just one person that is listening, maybe over, you know, my friends and brother-in-law in the States or whoever, and then you end up there and you end up running with them, you know, we've got one big running community in the whole world. That we got something in common straight away, right?
Completely. While you were talking, I was actually thinking that pace, as you said, is a 4-letter word, and I don't know if you will agree with me. Let's say on the social media part, on Instagram or Facebook or anything else, it doesn't matter if you post a picture where you say, "Oh, I ran 50 miles or 1 single kilometer," and you will discover that sometimes, not every time, of course, but sometimes the number of likes or comments will be on the shorter run, just because the message is a lot more intense than a 50K marathon.
Yeah.
So sometimes it happened to me that I had a little bit more extra time in a country. And to make you an example, I was in Montenegro.
Yeah.
And I ran my 12 or 13K in Kotor, and I was okay with. But the second day I had some extra time and I ran a lap of just 200 meters of a artificial island into the fjord. And funny enough, that got more attention than the run of 12K. So just because I wanted to run a single perimeter of a little island of 200 meters, it's just about it, you know.
So actually, you know, the point you're making there, I do agree. I think what the run is maybe about is probably more interesting than the pace anyway, right? Or the distance.
Absolutely. I think when I look at posts on Instagram by every single runner, yes, of course I can put my eyes on the distance or the pace, but like the pace is a 4-letter word, the pace is just a couple of numbers. So it doesn't really attract me anymore. Of course, I will support whoever trains for that. I'm not disagreeing on this. There's no disrespect on that. However, on my own style, I like to just concentrate on the distance rather than the pace. So it's just about, if it takes me an hour to run 10K or 50 minutes or 40 minutes or 2 hours, I don't really care.
Excellent. You are my kind of guy. Love that. That's really cool. So talk to me about Greenland. So talk to me about the whole trip, what you did when you were there, and, well, quite frankly, the idea of running in those conditions. Go for it.
Oh yeah, well, Greenland is another milestone, let's say, into my journey. It was a few years ago, and I took part in the Polar Circle Marathon, which is in the exotic location called of Kangerlussuaq, just above the Arctic Circle. And it's a marathon that happens every year around the last week of October, so everybody can do it. Check it out with the Albatross marathons.
Yeah.
And you can choose of running full marathon, a half marathon, a ultra marathon, and I went for the ultra marathon. And the idea of being there was just incredible. Running 63 kilometers, so 40 miles between the ice cap with the permafrost on the ice and the running on rocks, sand, and constant wind with -16 for like 7 or 8 hours is just something that blows my mind. And I don't know still how I managed to do it.
So a 40-mile ultra around the Arctic Circle, basically. Tell me what goes through your mind when you actually stand on the start line of that ultra marathon. What actually are you thinking?
Right. So when I was at the starting line, I was so excited and scared at the same time. I didn't know how my body was going to react. I don't know if I was going to be able to finish it, but at the same time, I was just looking forward to put one step ahead on the ice and see how far I could go. Luckily, I managed to finish it, but very, very soon after the start, I discovered that again the pace was the slowest I ever had, and I didn't really care. It was the last of the last of my problems. And if it took me an hour to do 6K on the ice with -20, fair enough. Even if it takes me the double, I didn't care. I was there. I was happy, and the perception of being with about 100 runners with the same goal, it just was amazing. 100 runners that you met and became friends with, and 100 runners that start with you at the same time. But of course, everybody has a different rhythm. So there's been some moments where I was the only one with on the let's say road. There was no road, but I was the only one over there with nobody in front of me until the horizon and nobody behind me until the horizon. So the perception was just incredible, something that I still didn't experience anywhere else.
And what were the weather conditions? Was there times when there was visibility for a long way, or was there not much visibility at times? How did that go?
It was pretty much okay, although when I was running on the ice cap, it was a little bit foggy, but not that much. It was kind of almost clear sky, so you could see almost until the horizon. But yeah, no, it was actually a mystic aura around it for the weather.
And in the race briefing for that, what kind of dangers were they talking about? Because I can imagine, compared to say a Peak District trail run in the UK, or a normal trail run, they must have been listing that. What were the dangers that they sort of talked about?
In terms of dangers, there's not really much of a danger, let's say. Yeah, you can of course you can slipper, so that's one of the main issues that can happen, and luckily nobody got injured. But other than that, yeah, you can encounter some wild animals like some reindeers or buffaloes. There are some buffaloes in Greenland, so that was really cool. And I managed to spot few of them running in the distance. That was really nice to see. And they say that there are polar bears as well. I didn't see any. They didn't mention any, so I think it was quite of a safe area to run around. Of course, the deeper and norther you go around Greenland, I guess the danger becomes bigger. So in terms of safety, everything was well organized. You had some people at every checkpoint, every 10K, so it was okay.
Yeah,
it was well organized. In terms of safety, maybe about animals, completely away from Greenland, I went to Svalbard, which is the northernmost place in the world where you can run, just below the North Pole, above Greenland, above Norway.
Yeah,
and there the safety was quite interesting because I ran there a marathon, and there were guards every few kilometers with rifles, and they told us that the day before the race, they saw some polar bears walking on it. So that was really, really interesting.
Wow. Yeah, no. So the idea of animal encounters for me as an ultra runner, I'm still I'm very early in my journey, but animal encounters do fascinate me about ultra running. And being a British citizen, there is very little danger to me apart from cows, and they're probably okay. But you know, listening to you being in Greenland, that was one of the first things I thought when I looked at your Instagram posts from there was I thought about polar bears. And because although I've got all these big goals and aspirations, I was like, oh, would I ever do that? Because what about the bears? What about polar bears? You know, there could be a problem. But yeah, no. So anyone who's listened to the former episodes of this podcast will realize that I have a thing about animals. I always, if there's an opportunity to ask a question, I do. And it was, you know, it's on my questions here for you, but you've kind of answered that already. And that the fact that you have been involved in a race where, well, 2 races where there could have been polar bears is quite scary. The fact that they have to have guards every few kilometers on one of those races just makes me question whether if I had the opportunity, I probably would take it because I would see that life is too short and I would want to take the opportunity to take part. But I would have to question that if they have to do that, then I would question being in that race itself. So fair play to you on that. So an ultra marathon in the cold, with very slippery underfoot. You know, what were you wearing on you? What was your footwear?
I had some trail Salomon shoes, and underneath they were made of Gore-Tex, so nothing wet inside. But on the sole of the shoe, I had the how you call them, the
like the spikes.
Yeah, exactly. The rampons, you know, the little metal thingy. Not to slip. Impossible to run without. I saw some runners that actually had to almost give up on their running because they didn't have any spikes.
Yeah.
And so that was my gear for running. Other than that, I didn't. I had only some long sleeve leggings and just a wind jacket. That's all.
And I understand that was your first and only ultra marathon so far.
Yes, correct. I'm trying to find the energies again to run again another ultra. I have the goal in my head of running in Italy a famous race of 100K, which at some point will be done. But with this project again of running every country, I discovered that I would be more interested in crossing a whole entire country or from border to border again, like Liechtenstein, in 100K. It will be more successful to me and definitely more meaningful.
Yeah, and obviously fits really well in with the goal as well. So I completely understand that. And but yeah, I mean, to for anyone to increase from the marathon distance to an ultra marathon, whether that be the 50K, the 100K, the 100 miler, 50 miler, whatever it is, but you know, that's a big jump for anyone to do. But for you to do it, but then do it in that environment must have been, I mean, what an experience. That's a totally different experience to anyone I've spoke to before in terms of their transition from doing the normal marathon to doing an ultra. That's a huge transition. And did it catch you off guard?
Sorry?
Did it catch you? Did it catch you out? Did it catch you off guard? Did it make you feel like you were running somewhere that you weren't meant to be running or didn't have the experience to do?
I wouldn't say like it was I don't know. It's difficult to explain when you are the only one in a place on that precise moment. The feeling like you're just yourself is difficult to put into words. So I was just focusing on the vibes, on the running, and the landscape. I had the glaciers right next to me until the horizon, and sometimes you could even hear the cracking of the ice. So it was just mind blowing.
What an absolute privilege to be there, and
that's a big privilege, I would say. Yeah, you said it better.
Yeah, no, I maybe one day, maybe people listening to this have done that race or are striving to do that race one day. Who knows? We will see. So, when it comes to this goal, last question really, around injury. So runners can tend to get injured quite a lot. And obviously, I think what you've said earlier, from my point of view in sports science, the fact that you're not running hard and you don't care for pace and whatever, that's always going to help with not getting injured. But how do you keep yourself injury free?
What I like to say to not runners who would like to start running is that possibly sharing my mistakes that I've done when I started running the first marathons. I started buying really cheap shoes, for example. I don't know, like 30 pounds price shoes, and run a marathon in that definitely didn't feel right. I had some knee pain, some back pain, all sorts of pain you have after a marathon, but a lot bigger. So the first thing I always recommend is to invest a little bit more in some shoes. Just be comfortable in that. And yes, something like with a soft sole, not to have too much impact with the asphalt on your knees. And that's about it. And always remember that you need to run slower, basically the 80% of the times you're running. Because if you keep running on your race pace, let's say, every single time, at some point you will injure yourself. Absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
So they keep saying that run slower to go faster. It's basically one of my mottos.
Excellent. I completely agree with that as well. So just quick fire questions. So far, what's been your favorite country to run in?
I don't know how to answer to this country. It's like which child is your favorite?
Yeah.
Every country has been regardless the size or the time I had there, every experience has been amazing. Although we've been speaking about Greenland, so Greenland probably is one of the most interesting countries I've been running for sure. I would add maybe the Faroe Islands, just above the UK.
Yeah.
And but maybe also all the Balkans. Definitely like Macedonia, Montenegro, very beautiful places to check out.
Yeah.
And even lately, Jordan was really interesting. So first time for me into the Middle East, and I'm trying to organize myself to run there again next March, if possible, to really tick off many other countries nearby.
Nice. And obviously, so like your bucket list is to run in every country, clearly. But is there a race that you know, any race, marathon, ultra marathon, 10K, is there any race that you haven't yet done that you aspire to do and that you really want to do?
There are a few, however, that they're not really known. I know there's an ultra marathon, which I don't even remember the name, so that's quite funny. It's 200 kilometers across Greenland. Across Mongolia.
Right.
So that really gets my attention. And there's another one that includes a half marathon in 6 days.
Yeah.
In the 5 Stan countries. So you have 6 days, and every day you run in a half marathon in Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. So every day in a different country. That's definitely something for me.
Wow, that will be the most unique answer that I ever get on this podcast. And we're only 11 episodes in, but I reckon that will be the most unique answer to that question that I ever get, because that's
actually,
cool.
I've got another one for you, which unfortunately it didn't happen last year due to the COVID-19.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go to Korea and run the last year. Of course, it didn't happen. It got cancelled, but everything was ready. I had the flights, the visas, everything was ready to be there. So it's been just postponed of a couple of years.
Right. So again, like I think, this is just going to be, I don't know, like what a goal and what a bucket list to have, and what a great interview as well. I mean, it's been it's been amazing listening to all of that. That's just a bit mind blowing for me. You know, and I'm sure it will be to people that are listening. And even the more specific bit about the ultra as well is just this different level to what I'm at the minute, or what some people will have been at. And, you know, thanks for sharing that with us, because I mean, epic is the only word for it. It's a great goal. It's a great journey, and what a great life hopefully you will have on this massive adventure. And I certainly will, you know, thanks to social media, be able to keep up with it and keep following you on that journey. So on that note, if anyone wants to follow you, so obviously the Instagram we've mentioned, but you're doing a blog as well. Are you doing a blog about it?
I used to, but I prefer to keep it on my only social media active on running, which is Instagram. So Running Out of Countries is the only place to look for me at the moment. I have a Facebook page, but I prefer to keep it only on Instagram so far. It's where I think it's more appropriate at the moment.
Yeah, no, cool. So we'll definitely follow you there. And I'm looking forward to following you on the journey as well. So thanks, Roberto, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, man. My pleasure.
And I hope everyone listening enjoyed it. And there's multiple things in there that hopefully people will have got out of that today. And if you did enjoy it, or you think there's someone that might enjoy it, people that like to travel, people that like to run in different countries, do share this podcast with them. It'd be great to get this out there and heard across the world, especially if Roberto is going to be visiting any countries as well. But for today, I hope you all enjoyed yourself, and I hope that we can meet here again on the Ultra Running Podcast with me, Coach Marshall.
We definitely will. Thank you.